Hello, friends and enemies. Welcome to Hangoutlander. I am Beth, the host of Hangoutlander, which is our weekly recap show for our weekly recap after show for Starz' Outlander. If you're new here, we've been covering the show for about 1,000,000 years, or at least since it was announced that it was being made. We've interviewed the creators and the author and the cast on red carpets, and we've written recaps for every single episode and read every single chapter of all the books together. But this is where we gather every week after the episodes have aired to break it all down, the good, the bad, and the incorrect. Thankfully, there wasn't much of that this week. Episode 503 of Outlander was, as I put in my recap, a glorious return to the source material, and that is exactly what we are here for. Hurrah, hooray. And now, welcome to my very good friends, Amy and Julie. Say hello.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
Thank you to everybody that's talking to us in the chat. As Brett just noticed, I am repping Elizabeth Warren tonight. The Cool Table has not officially endorsed a candidate, but me personally, I have already voted for Warren in the Tennessee primary. I early voted last week. And I just wanted everybody watching to just constantly subliminally get Warren in their heads if they're a Super Tuesday state. So tomorrow, do the right thing, everybody. Vote for Elizabeth Warren, who's lovely and is exactly the kind of septuagenarian I want to be eventually. So thank you, everybody that's loving the shirt. Yay. Yay. Episode 409, 503. I don't know why I just said 409. Episode 503, Free Will, is a good episode of Outlander. It's amazing. I can't believe it. What did you guys think?
I loved it. I thought are there a couple things maybe, but overall, I absolutely adored that. I loved the episode. I never once got bored. I never looked at my phone. I never, fast forward. I never paused and went to the, restroom. It kept my attention from beginning to end. And it was awesome. It's what the show, it's what the show really is. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. There were maggots. So
even though they weren't really at the ridge for very long, there was ridge shit, including maggots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maggots and a lot of mold. There was so much mold in the first.
But it was
5
stank.
minutes.
We need the stank.
Right.
Fewer cloches, less stank.
Yes.
Yeah. If we're going to talk about where the show kind of moves away from what we think it should be, the biggest criticism that I've read that kind of moves through all the different levels of fandom. So people that love the show all the time, and even Diana's Facebook page and things like that, has been how ridiculous the homestead is and how ridiculous Fraser's Ridge is and how wealthy they all seem. And it keeps coming up every single week because every week you see something new that you maybe didn't notice before. Like this week, I saw someone just had pictures of all the different workmen that are there, and just the arrows pointing to them. And I'm like, yes, who are these people? Jamie is supposed to have built the home that they live in, maybe with a little bit of help from, Roger and Archbug. And it's just a bananas amount of wealth that they've amassed. And it just, every week it shows itself in new ways. And part of the reason that this episode was good is because the majority of the episode took place away from the ridge. Right. So we didn't have to deal with that.
Right.
And it looked like a place that it looked and it smelled like it should have.
Right.
Yeah.
It did remind me of Fixer Upper, when they showed images of them actually building the house and putting the house together and it all coming together. And I was like, oh, this is what the remodel process was in Fixer Upper, and how much I missed that show as well. But other than that, it did take place away from the house. So it got us away from all of that. And it was that grit and dirty, and you could, if a television could have a smell, that had a smell to it. But yeah, It was nice to be away from Fraser's Ridge and go to where the real people are.
Yeah. My favorite
It
thing.
was it was very Claire and Jamie centric.
Yes, which is, we'll talk about a lot because that's obviously like why the episode works so well. But what killed me, I don't spend a lot of time on Diana's Facebook, but I did go there today. And what's cracking me up sometimes is she is so true to form. Like the very first thing I ever wrote about Outlander, for those of you that are new and you don't have any idea, we used to write for a site called That's Normal. And one of the very first things that I wrote about Outlander was this really long treatise on Sam Heughan when nobody knew who he was and he had just been cast. And one of the things that I loved and wrote in that post was how Diana was just like on the internet telling people to shut up, basically. Like she was just like, you're an idiot. He'll make it. He's fine. You think he doesn't like people, because people were saying these ridiculous things about Sam and how he couldn't be Jamie. And it just would crack me up the way she would shoot them down. And she's doing that right now about stuff that's bugging us, especially things that are happening on the Ridge. Like
you mean agreeing with us?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
good. Okay.
Like shooting down like stuff that's dumb that people like the cloche, what are they called? Like the glass hurricane things or whatever. I don't know how you say that word.
Is it just cloche?
I just call it a bell. I call it.
But
a
how do you
bell
say
jar.
it? How do you say it when it's plural?
Oh shit!
Oh,
Like I know cloche, but is it cloches or cloches?
It's like
Cloche?
duck. No, ducks is plural as ducks. Never mind.
maybe it is like duck though. Maybe
feel
it is
like-
duck.
I feel like Brittany
Yeah.
Schweigert will know because she's a party planner. Tell me, Brittany, how do you say the plural of cloche? Anyway, so she's just like saying like, of course it's ridiculous that Claire would be making all of that bread. And she's just like, they did it for dramatic purposes. Okay, Brittany just said it's cloche. Yeah, but I don't know how to say it. Cloches. Okay. Thank you.
Cloches.
So what was cracking me up is she's like, of course, Claire wouldn't be able to make all that bread. They're like doing it for, like, what would be the most dramatic way to show that she's making the penicillin and that they were worried about it. And that would be for her to just bake a ton of bread. And like, of course, the food would need to be out in the air in order to even get penicillin on it. That is the craziest. I was cracking up. She's like, this is dumb. Like, you can't put all of that stuff under glass without water and penicillin just show up.
Yeah.
I was cracking up. She's very funny to me right now.
I live for this. I live for these comments from her because they're spot on. They're what we're all thinking, but she just says it, And of course we all say it as well, but we have no power in the situation. She's like, no, I think it's Murtaugh's alive. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. It's not just Murtaugh. She's even like talking about some of the writers being like trying really hard to put drama where it doesn't need to be. And she's like lit about it. It's cracking me up. I love it. It's my favorite thing about her, hands down. So if you're in need of a good time, M. Ryan just said you need to go to the Lit Forum where she's totally uncensored, which is, I guess, the CompuServe thing that she does, like what we call the supercomputer, back from the 60s. But like her Facebook page also is not a bad place to go. She's even done a little bit of it on Twitter. But yeah, it's fun to watch her kind of light into it.
The best parts is when she tweets, but she puts like that when somebody like what did you think of this? She just puts and it's like that. We talked about it last week. It's the mom, the look the mom gives.
Yeah,
and she can't give the look. It's just a couple of letters, and you're just like, oh,
yeah, it's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about Claire and the Mold because it ties in really nicely with one of the big questions of this episode. I put in my recap, but I think everybody that is at all a close watcher noticed it. And that is that they spent a lot of time and several frames on Fergus going and finding a piece of paper to write down Jamie's note to take to the printer in Willam's Creek. And what could this possibly mean? And what is going to happen from this? What is going to come from this moment? Because obviously everybody that's anybody knows, the idea that you can't show something that you're not going to follow through on.
Right.
Of course, I wouldn't put past the writers to do that, but obviously there's something is going to come from this.
Right.
So if Claire is making all of this mold and doing this little autopsy, and she's done the little papers where she has written out what the doctor has said and all of that, There's a moment in the script that they wrote for this week that says that, like, at one point, Mrs. Bug is throwing away some of the moldy food, and she sees Marsley sewing up a pig, like practicing her stitching or whatever, and it ends up being the title for this week. You see Marsley like in silhouette, kind of, or not in silhouette, but like blurred out, sewing up a pig, and they talk about the pig flesh being a good substitute for human flesh. That's what Claire says to Marsley at one point. And you also, and like in the script, you're supposed to see, Mrs. Bug is supposed to see Marsley doing that and have a look on her face that makes her think, like, I think the script said something about like, this is getting a little eye of newt. And I really think that the human pig flesh is a good substitute for human flesh, plus Marsley sewing up the pig flesh, plus some other things, is going to lead to a big old witch hunt coming Claire's way, especially when you put it in conjunction with the stuff that, or the piece of paper that Fergus ends up sending to the printer. What do you guys think?
And that becomes a through line for something that's already happened with Brianna talking about,
Right.
You can't do this. People,
Right.
they've already put that seed into your head a couple
Absolutely.
of episodes ago.
Well, it was last week's episode. Brianna voiced her concern with her mom. You know, look what you're doing. You're doing an autopsy. You can't do this. Like, people think you would. She even said, like, and then Marcelly actually said to her when she walked in, she goes, "Witch!" Like, that notion of, this is not normal. My problem with the Fergus thing with the paper is, if Fergus knows how to write, he knows how to read. And he actually looked at the paper, at the back of the paper for just a second and went like that. And I'm like,
well, it does look like scrap. And
Right.
if you catch it, which I did everything I could to catch it and kind of turn it where I could see what it is. It is it's Dr. Rawlings' notes that she had been writing, or the recommendations that she had been writing. And there was a lot of stuff scratched out on it. So the fact that she actually sent out the Dr. Rawlings recommendations to everybody on the Ridge means she probably was aware that she couldn't just put things on there that sounded witchy. She had to be a little bit more circumspect about what that is. That is the paper that he picks up, but it's got scratches out of it. So it could have more stuff on it. It could be a little bit, it might have something like the pig flesh bit on it, something a little bit more witchy written on it that causes that to happen. Or it could just be something else altogether, and we're barking up the wrong, witch's pyre. I don't know.
I think someone just made a comment. They were kind of already setting, if they're laying the groundwork to give them a reason for other people to assault Claire, it's like they're already kind of blaming Claire. Kind of.
Yeah, Heidi just said that.
Own demise. Yes.
Yeah.
It will be Claire's carelessness of leaving things out. Her and also her blatant according to her daughter, it's like almost this disregard for you're in the past. You're doing these practices that are not really part of this time period. So, but I think, somebody put up that she's a scapegoat. She'll become the scapegoat.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is an unfair way to do things. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons where, as we talked about at the beginning of this, is that when they stick close to the book, the episode tends to go really, really well. But that's true for the whole show. Even when they make small changes, and I don't mean like not fitting everything in. I mean, when you make changes to how Claire does an autopsy, right? Or why she's doing it. It's, you change Claire, right? Like, we didn't talk about this when we talked about the autopsy because, one, I didn't think about it. And, but who did was our friend Tweedledee, who's on Twitter. And she said that Claire would obviously never have done an autopsy on a person that she already knew why he died. She already knew why he died, or knew he was going to die before he died. And she already knew what was going on. And so the fact that she would have just randomly cut this person open, not to find out what was going on, but just for the fun of it, changes Claire's character. Right. And so when they explained it at the end of the episode, which was, well, we weren't going to be able to put the autopsy in where it comes in, which means they're probably not going to do, obviously, the stuff with the plantation. So we had to do it some way else. They just don't get that they change the heart of the characters. And this is another way that happens. In the 6th book, which everybody thinks they're bringing some of the stuff that happens in the 6th book up to this season, some stuff that happens with Claire, she does get assaulted, and it isn't her fault. It doesn't have anything to do with something she does or doesn't do. She's just like at the still or whatever with Marsley, and these men come upon her, right?
Yes.
So this, on the other hand, if this is leading to that scenario where the men who come to assault her because they are on some sort of witch hunt, we've put Claire in the driver's seat of her own assault, and it is a terrible way to tell that story just for dramatic purposes.
Well, when she's assaulted, not just because she's in the whiskey still house with Marsley, it's also because they're getting revenge on Jamie. So that's a part of her being kidnapped, and they're angry with Jamie. So it has nothing
Right.
to do. So now they've completely changed that. If this is what they're going to do, they've completely changed the reasoning behind it to begin with.
Right. It's very frustrating. It's one of the things that
Also, they can have a rape. Whoop, whoop.
That's the thing. We need another one this, let's have another one.
And that occurred to me during this episode when Claire is talking to Jamie in the woods about, oh, by the way, Blackjack Randall is alive. And then he was talking about how he felt about Blackjack, if it made him feel better that he was dead. And it's just in my head, I'm just like, okay, let's remember who all has been sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Pergamuse, I always say, I'm so sorry that I say it wrong, says, and then the rape culture is perpetuated. It's that notion of, if she hadn't X, Y, and Z, like if she hadn't left out if she didn't push it with this, if she hadn't left out her notes, if she hadn't, it's like, well, and Jana, I completely get it. Jana, one of our writers, also put that, I don't want people to blame Fergus. And I'm like, no, I'd like to blame Fergus just a little bit.
I mean, I don't think that I'm not sure that this is what's going to happen. I mean, there's no telling. In fact, when Fergus comes back to the Ridge and he has a letter in his hand, I thought, okay, now we're actually going to see whatever he was doing with that piece of paper that he took. Now we're going to see what it was. And apparently it's not even remotely going to happen. That was just the letter back from Lord John that he got from the mail or whatever. But I'm frustrated that it's like this some kind of super long game. But again, it may pay off and it may not. I don't trust the writers to pay to have a good payoff on something like that without changing things and making them worse than they need to be. Yeah.
But other than that, this was a great episode.
Well, that's it. It doesn't really have a whole lot to do with this episode. It's just like the longer arc of the season. And we've been saying all along, like, especially last season, the way that they try to tell the story across the whole season usually breaks down and falls apart. And the episodes always feel like, they feel like here's the, guest actor for this particular one, and here's the guest actor for this one, and here's the new pop-up character you haven't met before, and they're going to have an adventure with him, and then they're never going to see them again. And it's kind of a shitty way to do it when the book pulls so many people through not just one book, but through the whole series, and yet people just pop up and fall off in this show. So I hope that it's something new. I'm trying to see what everybody says. Sheila just said, I'm sure there'll be consequences for Claire's witch doctoring, but I think it's really reaching to speculate that they're folding it into the assault rape. I think maybe. I mean, I haven't even read A Breath of Snow and Ashes, so I'm going by what a lot of people have said. I don't think that it is reaching, but it's not necessarily. There's been a lot of chatter about the finale being super powerful. And the end of the Fiery Cross kind of isn't. It's very quiet and subdued and everybody's happy. And so it's not beyond the realm of possibility that they've brought some stuff from A Breath of Snow and Ashes up to this season. And then I think somebody else said that there's more than one kidnapping in A Breath of Snow and Ashes, so that maybe they don't want to do that twice. So there's a lot going on that makes that speculation worthwhile, I think. But tell us what you think. I mean, why do you think that Fergus is taking why did they show that for so long? We'd love to hear what other reasons for it.
I think you're also missing talking about the most important part of that scene, which was that Fergus invented the ballpoint pen.
Yeah.
No one, even when Roger was writing down people's names in the Book of Life or whatever that thing is, there's no inkwell.
No, none of it. They have this magic filling this quill that has ink. So somehow, while going through all of these, this discovery, they also discovered the Bic pen. So,
I mean, they're making penicillin without exposing anything to the air. So you never know what they're capable of doing.
No, but I think the paper, I mean, the only point they focused on that paper and the whole, like, where he went like this, first of all, he goes into Claire's surgery. He grabs that piece of paper. He looks at the piece of paper. They stay with him. Of course, they're going to build upon that.
Yeah. It's told you what's on the piece of paper.
Right. It's almost like we just took, it's like screenwriting 101, how to build suspense, basic level.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the most basic way of doing things. Speaking of building suspense, let's talk about how everybody leaves the ridge. It's very happy-go-lucky and it builds no suspense. But I was a little irritated, and this is one of the only complaints I have with this episode, at the very anemic goodbye between Bree and Jamie. In fact, you can't even call it a goodbye because they didn't say anything to each other. Why do we think that is? How was it? Why was there nothing there at all?
It almost felt like they were distant. Like she was kind of like, I should go over there, but I'm not going to go over there. Instead, I'm going to, and rightly so, say goodbye to my husband.
Like they had them look at each other. Why look at each other?
Maybe there was a scene that they cut from when he told her that she was in charge, because Roger mentions it to her, like, you're the one who's left in charge. And then, of course, he had to be like, wah, wah. It's so hard to know what Jamie wants.
Why leave the look in there then?
I don't know. No. We'll just show like, oh, bye, Da. But I think it's one of those things where they didn't really, I don't know if they didn't think about it, but leave the look, because we would have complained if, sorry, it's the wheels turning like right as I'm speaking. We would have complained if they hadn't even exchanged anything.
I wouldn't have even noticed. I just thought she's smooshy facing with her husband. And
well, see, I was like, is she going to say goodbye? She's saying goodbye to her mom.
Well, yeah, I wanted her
to. She was gonna say goodbye to Jamie.
But I don't want her to do it in a way that doesn't make any sense for either one of them, for them to like give each other these weird looks. It was very odd. If they cut a scene, then they should have cut that look for sure.
Right.
There was also something to look, and I was like, as actor people, they've made out.
Well, it's the same. It was like when he first looked at her when she was in her wedding dress. I'm like, that's not the look of like that. I know that's supposed to be the look of a father giving to a daughter, but I'm also like, that's a look that you're like, I'm going to get under that dress later.
Right. Like, it was creepy. They were looking at each other. It was very sexual tension.
It was. It really was.
I am no comment on that because I have no comment. I am eating Thin Mints though.
Marita Backen says Bree said she would always quote be his wee girl 2 episodes ago, but obviously she couldn't be bothered to say goodbye to him now. See you later, Dad. I'm almost 40, and if I don't say goodbye on, when you're talking to your parents on the phone or something like that, if I don't give a simple like bye, Dad, I will get a phone call back going, did you not wish me goodbye? Is there something wrong? And that's just on the phone. So
my dad doesn't care. He's like, hangs up. Doesn't care. Oh, well. So let's talk about some of the good stuff.
I thought Roger looked really hot in this episode.
Really?
He did. I thought so too.
He looked a little too clean, but like he looked good.
Okay, so
wait. I just saw that same thing. CJ just said she thinks that the anemic goodbye was because she knows about Bonnet and Jamie hasn't told her personally. Mm-hmm. That is conjecture.
It tracks.
It tracks. Like that makes sense, but also it doesn't make sense for Jamie. He doesn't know that she knows. And yet he's like, why wouldn't he go and say goodbye to her? Like there's a lot. There's something going on.
Jana just put also if Roger is such a good father, also Roger is such a good father, but no goodbye with Jem.
Yes, but he is carrying Jem on their way towards
The
where they get on the horses. You see
horses.
him for just a minute holding some sort of
Right.
child in a bonnet. So I'm assuming it's Jem. You never see Jem again, but he
And
is
I-
holding Jem.
And I think at this point, the point of this episode was get them on the damn horses because Jamie, first we
Yeah.
have to meet the twins, then Jamie and Claire have to go to this horrible home. So I think ultimately if they were like, listen, we have an hour. I can't waste it on a goodbye with Jamie and Bree. And I can't, we can't we'll focus later on Roger being a good daddy. Right now we got to get them to this because that moment, those other moments after when they left, those were amazing moments. Actually, even before that, it was when they sorry, I'm jumping around, but it was the wake up, Jamie blessing himself and thanking God for being able to see Claire.
Yeah.
That was so great.
Let's go ahead and talk about that because we're skipping
Yes.
around and that
Sorry.
opens the episode. And that scene, I promised somebody who talked to me on Twitter that I would talk about it in this particular way. I really love that scene. It feels very Outlander to me, where he is coming home from a long journey and he just stops and appreciates the view of his home and the fire, the smoke coming out of the fireplace and all of that stuff. And then he sees his wife and he is filled with contentment and ease. And there's an intimacy in that he can just, the sight of his wife asleep and the tenderness of that moment and being able to, the fact that for 20 years, Jamie didn't have Claire to come home to, and now he does. And that he prays over her and it shows his faith. There's just a lot going on that I think is very great. And I think Sam did a really, really good job. However, I have a complaint. Nope, my complaint is not sex. I'm fully on board. I don't like the sex scenes. I'm fully on board with them not having sex. I think that this was when Sam said they, making love without making love. If that's the case, I fully buy that. Who wakes up from a deep sleep to see anybody, even their husband, standing over them and doesn't go, ah!
Because she senses him. Because they are part of because they are one of two souls. They are one soul connected and she knows.
No,
I know.
There's that. Okay. Also, she probably smelled him. So maybe the smell woke her up first and she was like, oh, horse, male sweat. And then
Jamie.
all the things she smells. So maybe you wake up slowly, right? And maybe she's a slow waker. But then why? And I think it's Katrina, guys. And I'm sorry to say this, but why are her lines so overwrought? Why is she like, Jamie, you're back? Why? Why can't she just be like, yeah, you're back. Get in the bed. Let's do it. Why is it so serious? Why is everything about her this severe earnestness? I don't get it.
It's almost like it's like romance with a capital R.
Right.
Everything, there's no real casualness to their relationship ever. Everything has to be so intense and serious. Right. It's like their whole life has been scripted by Lord Byron, and there can't be anything that's remotely casual about their love and relationship.
Right. Well, that's, first of all, I love the scene, and I'm somebody who likes the sex scenes, and I was happy there wasn't a sex scene in this moment. I thought it was, I'm on board with that because I just loved that was pure intimacy. That was well acted by Sam's part. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
Whereas Katrina kind of went a little overboard. Sam played it perfectly in the sense of I'm home. I'm looking at her.
Yeah.
I say this prayer.
He even has a little smirk on his face.
He has that little smirk. He was total Jamie Free. That is exactly it. And my whole thing has been Sam, no matter what we've said about Ridge shit and what this looks like and what that looks like, I think he's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, definitely.
These 3 episodes.
He's definitely been the most consistent and the best part of the season so far. But here's how that scene should have gone. Everything up until the point where she wakes up is the same, except her waking up is more normal and more just I'm so glad you're home. And then she's like, says something about get the coat off or whatever. Then when they do the scene, and then she says what she says, but it's not so cheesy. And we have a good mix of people thinking it's super cheesy, the way her delivery was bad, and a good mix of people like loving that scene. So I think it's probably split between people who thought it was overwrought and people who loved it. But then when they do this, the rest of that scene where they're in front of the fireplace and they're drinking and he's telling her everything that happened, which is really what I loved, because of course, Jamie and Claire coming together and figuring shit out and doing it together and needing one another is absolutely 100% the truth of these novels and these characters. But he should have been in his shirt. They should have been post-coital.
Yeah.
Like, don't show me the sex, but have him come in, pray over her, all of it the same. And then the rest of that scene is,
because they would have still gone, they would have boned down.
Yes. They should have had sex that we didn't see, and then the rest of that scene be done after the fact. That would have made the most sense and would have been super cute, and it would have been just a nod to the audience, like, wait, we got, like they did it, but you don't have to see it. And there's no point for him to still be in his coat. It would smell bad. He's got his boots and his coat on. Get them off. Like, it's just dumb.
But I did love them coming together. It was very much reminiscent of book Jamie and Claire, because that's what they do. Other than have a lot of sex, they talk. They talk a lot. They listen to each other. And in this one, when she's like, "I'm coming with you," and he's like, "Okay." Like, I'm not going to be able to stop her. I also love the fact that they talked about where she talks about the future and she goes, "Jamie, I don't remember a lot of about the regulators," which made me all go, "Don't we all?"
Yeah, I have no idea. That scene was perfect. They're talking out. Everything was exactly how I wanted it to work out. Her saying, "You need my help," and he's like, "Yes, of course I do. I always have. I always." So that plays out perfectly. But like, take your coat off.
They act so serious around each other that they act like a couple that's never farted in front of each other. You know, it's just there's no humor, or hey, I know you. And your zits on your butt too.
Or they try
sometimes they do. I mean,
sometimes this season has not felt that way. This season has felt very, everything has to be heavy.
Right. And that's I think they tried to do the silly where it was the first episode of the season when they were having the sex montage and she's trying to pull off his boot.
Yeah.
And he's trying to make noises, but it was because it was in that context of that sex montage with the song playing over, and next thing you know, it switches to like Murtaugh getting it on. I mean, they tried to do that and it just didn't work well.
Brett
shouldn't try.
Brett says there's a big difference in her life with Frank and Jamie. I feel like there's also a big difference in season 1, how she interacted with Frank than she interacts with Jamie. Like when she hops up on that table and she was just like, "You ready to eat your lunch or whatever?" And it was like, much, Mr. Frank. And now they just act so.
Yeah, I mean, but like that's what the first episode, they're having this fun sex moment, which felt very real and very normal. And that would have worked. It would have been great. It would have been exactly what you want to see if you have to see a Jamie and Claire sex moment, if it hadn't been interspersed with everybody else having sex.
Right.
And if we actually hadn't seen their nakedness. I mean, like, this show has not, at this point, if they're having like a fun sex scene, I don't need boobs and I don't need heavy like butt thrusting. Like that is not the point at all. I am not, it just doesn't, you haven't earned it. They're not, it just doesn't make sense. I just don't think it makes sense. That's just me. I'm not
in this, for me personally.
Elizabeth Warren would never, is my point.
Oh, she would. I just think,
as Elizabeth Warren would say, "Bless your heart, Beth."
Yeah. I actually, for this moment, I don't think if they did a complete sex scene with boobs, butt thrusting, and heavy breathing, I would have been like, it would have taken me out of this moment.
Oh no, I'm glad it's not there.
Cared.
Right.
I'm glad it's not there, but I just they should have shown that it was a possibility in the other way that I said that they should have done it. They should always just call me, guys.
Don't call her. No.
You need my help with season 6. I'm just saying, you need me.
Because you would say no thrusting, and some of us would be like, "Shut your beautiful mouth."
I would give you beautiful moments. You would have gotten slippery as a water weed. if I had been in the writer's room, okay, you would have gotten a whole lot more of Jamie saying things like about his cock stand, which we've never heard him say, which is the funniest word in the whole fucking world. And I can't believe that we never hear it. It's hilarious. Anyway, it would have been a lot more fun.
I need that with a thrust. If you can promise me one thrust,
yes, maybe,
then we're fine.
Maybe. So let's get into the beef of this episode. So they get to the campfire, which I love. I love Jamie and Claire at a campfire with a bunch of guys. Season 1 vibes. I'm loving it.
Yes. I loved that.
Yes. There's this beautiful shot I mentioned in my recap where the men are all around the fire and Claire is centered in the frame, silhouetted, just in black, and the men are blurred behind her. And it's such a gorgeous shot. I mean, it's very reminiscent of some of the bigger sweeping shots that we got in season 1, where you see Claire like with that beautiful like fur cloak that she used to have, like looking out over a lock. Like there's just like some moments that just feel very Outlander, feel very picturesque in the same way that the book feels really picturesque. And just that few seconds of that shot I thought were like really, really great. Plus the lines were straight from the book. It was a great scene.
And the fact that she joked around, like when you first think about those shots from season 1 and she's sitting, all the men are sitting around the campfire and she kind of used to, if you remember, she used to sit off to the side.
Yeah.
And it was like the outsider looking in. Now she's now she's a part of it. And she did a joke. I can't remember what she said, but she made a joke and made
he says, I'm going to sleep warm no matter how I'm laid. And she says, that's what you think. And
right.
And it is a joke. And I think that even comes from the book. I know the conversation about like whether whose head, like feet and head and all that is in the book, but like even that the pacing was off like a little bit. Like, I don't know if it was Katrina's like delivery comedy wise, or if it was the directing or the editing, but I was like, it took her a minute to get to that point. Like it should have been a little quicker, but still good scene. Excellent scene. Could have used them going off together and him picking her up and going and like laying down, but whatever. So the thieves come in, and I didn't really get why we didn't see the thieving happen and see the guys like rustle up and go get them. Like all of a sudden there, you just hear somebody in the distance yelling thief. And then you see the guy bring Kezi in. And then a few minutes later, you see Jamie bring in Josiah. And I was just like, why didn't we see the thieving happen and the chase happen? I mean, maybe it was just time or something like that, but it felt very like abrupt to me. I don't know.
I was too distracted by the horrible wig.
That's Jamie's old wig.
That is Jamie's old wig with the bangs.
Like, why did they even think that that's a realistic wig? Would it just be easier just to have long hair one single length and then you could just tie it back with a rope or something? The idea that like every few months you got to get out the knife and cut off your bangs. And why they would both have the exact same haircut. It doesn't make any sense.
The only thing that makes sense is the mullet.
I was like,
yeah, they shouldn't have the same hair. They haven't even been together in a year.
Twins, just because twins look like the same hair.
And it would have made it. The only thing that really makes sense, other than the pulled back ponytail, is like a mullet. Because if you shave your head, this grows and this grows and this is super long and this is still growing out. So the only thing that really makes sense for like dudes that don't do their hair are mullets.
Right.
Not bangs.
Not that mullets ever really make sense, but yes.
I don't get it.
No, I don't know. No.
But I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Well, my complaint is they make these choices for no good reason that really distract from something that could be really good.
Very true.
I still thought it was a scene that showed Jamie and Jamie's heart, and it was, once again, it was one of those moments. It's like, okay, it's got to lead us to the next big thing.
Yeah.
Maybe Beth has hit on something, that maybe it's Katrina's delivery of things, because even when she was walking up to him, like, because Josiah, like, even the way she speaks to him, it's again just this like
it's what when you watch those things like Life as, you see these interviews like Life as a Deaf Person, what bugs me, it's when people talk like this. Can I see your ears? And you're like, just
No,
possibly
I even mean when she comes up to him for the first time and she still thinks that Kezzy is it Josiah, the one that's not deaf? And just the way that she's, again, so overly like, oh, Josiah, what's happened? It's just, she doesn't feel very Claire.
right.
She doesn't feel very, sometimes she doesn't feel very real.
Yes.
Well,
and
yeah.
I don't think that happens in the more emotional moments. And I am not kidding that it is like painful for me to even talk about this, but it is because I love her. But unless she is dealing with a deep emotional moment, like when Bree tells her about her assault, or the big fight in the reckoning or something like that. When it's regular everyday stuff, there's just something missing. She doesn't feel fully realized. She feels very like a carbon copy of what a woman with all of this going on is like. I think that Claire is meant to be more earthy, more of the moment, and a little bit quicker about things.
Well, this was a World War II nurse who
she's seen some shit. Exactly.
Not once, but twice, has been through, has seen horrible things both in 20th century and this time period. All of her shock factor should be pretty much nothing should be able to shock her anymore. Yeah. And the fact is that's what she still is playing. And somebody posted earlier, and I want to make sure, I think it's not just Katrina. There's a director behind this who could have been like,
right,
can we just, let's do that a couple times. Give me different emotions.
Lachey's cracking me up. She just said, y'all are just now realizing that Kat overacts.
I never thought she really, that's the thing. In the first few seasons, maybe I'm missing something. I never thought she did.
Well, I mean, okay.
I don't know. Maybe I'm blind.
I didn't really watch last season, so.
It's been a while that I've watched any. I don't rewatch the seasons ever because especially when you write recaps, you have to watch it 3 or 4 times. I don't anymore, but I used to. And so I've seen them all more than once, but I don't ever go back and rewatch it. I spend too much time covering it to do that. And I don't enjoy it. I probably would enjoy it if I went back and watched it, but I just know too much. So I don't go back and rewatch it. So it's not something that I've super noticed. Like I have noticed it in the past, but I've been able to clear. There've been other things to complain about, honestly. Like when Sophie comes on board, like her acting was so bad. Katrina was great. You know what I mean? Like there's no comparison in that case. And there have been times where she's been amazing. So yes, I've noticed it before, but it's never really been something that like diminishes my enjoyment of the show to this degree. Like for her to kind of ruin a scene because she's doing that's a lot for me, at least. And it hurts to say that because I love Katrina and I think that she's amazing. But Lachey just said something that I've been thinking for the past couple of episodes, which is that remember how we felt about Sophie? Sophie's calmed down. Kat's ramped up for no reason. Claire should be in her groove with Jamie by now. I fully agree. I actually thought and almost put in my recap that I think that Sophie has rubbed off on Katrina because she talked about her. She talked about her so much. Like she would talk her up and we'd be like, why is she doing that? I realize that she's her co-star and she doesn't want to like denigrate her in public, but why does she constantly saying you're so wonderful all the time? Like she's not. No. And then I was like, well, maybe she thought she was. And so now she's doing what Sophie has done. No, go back.
But Sophie didn't even emote. Like, I'm sorry. Wait, like to go back, I'm like, Sophie didn't even emote like that. I mean, where Sophie was, for me, the opposite. Like where she had I feel like I'm being really mean. Sorry. But
well, even the scene when Fanny Beerfleet said, your name is Seth, and she was just like, she was even humorless in that. Again, it was overwrought.
It was a cute scene. It was a great.
But Katrina's reaction to that, or Claire's, was just to my husband. You can call me Claire, and I'm just like, have a sense of humor.
Right, like giggle. At least giggle, like and then look back at Jamie like, my name's Claire. It's You can call me that. You can call me that.
I'm glad to see that there are people that agree with us, but I also am glad to see that there are people that don't, because I don't want to feel this way, and I hope that it changes. And I don't think that it's all the time.
Right.
But maybe she's just gotten into a groove with Claire.
Right.
I know you said that she should be in a groove with Jamie, but maybe Katrina's gotten into a groove with Claire that's really hard to get out of.
Right. But I'll say it again. Like, Sam Heughan has found Jamie, like, this season, Sam Heughan has found Jamie Fraser big time. Like, this was chef's kiss. Good job, Sam.
There's a lot of people that are saying they're not seeing what we're seeing. That's totally fair.
That happens.
I hope that not everybody's seeing that, and I hope I'm wrong, and I hope I'm not out there looking for something, but it is there. We're not the only ones to see it. So, I think
what's just frustrating, if it was Sam overacting and Katrina overacting, and be like, oh, okay. But it's like, right now, it's like we have Sam finding that pitch, that perfect pitch with this character. And I'm going to say it, Katrina Balfe has found that perfect pitch with Claire, I think, more times than Sam has in the past. I just wish they would just be equal. That's it.
I think a good example of this is when she says, what kind of world is this to be born into? And then Jamie feels very Jamie in the book. He's like, this is the only world. And then she was like, but no.
Yeah.
And it's just, they don't.
And it's like, no, he's right. This, like, and he said that with
Meredith says, time, history, destiny, be damned.
Right.
But I mean, those are terrible lines. That's part of it too. And that's what M. Ryan just said. She has to say lines like, time, history, be damned, 100%. And that's part of it. She is doing what she can with the lines that she's been given. But I said last week, like, I would like Claire to be like irritated in that scene. Like, I just don't feel like, where is Claire's, big frustrations? Where are her irritations? When is she rushed? She's never rushed. She's always got time to say whatever she needs to say. And I just feel like there's something missing. And I would always normally say it's 100% the writing, but because Sophie is better, and because Sam is better, and because, Marcelly's kicking it, it's just like something is off with Claire a little bit, some of the time, not all of the time, but a little bit, some of the time, something's off with Katrina's performance. And it sucks, man. I don't like to say that, but I hope that that's not going to be the case for the rest of the season. There are people that are like hating us right now. I'm sorry. It's just the way I feel. But let's go to, they finally get to the Beardsleys. And this is the really excellent part of the episode where it's Jamie and Claire on an adventure doing stuff together and getting shit done. And I love kind of the spooky aspects of this episode. I thought that the Beardsley homestead looked exactly how I thought the Beardsley homestead should look. It was amazing. I was like, look at this. They did it.
It was, like, if you could smell a house through your television, that was it. It was dark. It was dank. It was gritty. It was dirty. There was goats. There was, when they put their handkerchief up to their nose, I was like, I can smell it too. Is it weird? I smell it too. So I thought that was the whole thing. Dawn Richardson said, only problem I had was Claire heading into the barn alone. Jamie would never let her do that.
I said the same thing. I screamed at my screen. I was like, don't let her go in there by herself.
I know.
I think he would totally let her go into a barn alone.
He had a gun.
Like,
she had a gun.
She had a gun, and he's like, they're not thinking that anything is going to like pop out at them or whatever. Like,
I just thought from more like a scary movie, horror movie perspective, I was just like, don't split up. Like, even I knew what was going to happen. I just was like freaked out about it.
I think that they think they directed it like that on purpose. I think they meant it to look like the don't split up thing of a horror movie. So that's why that's the first thing that you think. But in reality, of course, she can go look in the barn by herself. Yeah. Like, that's not a big deal at all. Like, he's just going to go to the front door and knock.
There's the kittens.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the most beautiful cat. And I'm not a cat person. I'm like, but did anyone else think? I was like, okay, a cat's going to jump out at her face. And that's just how much I'm used to like horror films and everything. I'm like, something's going to jump out. a cat's gonna scratch her face off or something like that. But I was like,
I liked it. Brad was like, did they really need to prove the kitten litter was there? No, I just wanted to see the kitten.
right, that was it. But
I actually thought that the kittens, they should have just used like something that looked like little moles, like that. Those weren't born last night. Those kittens had fur.
But the part that I'm not kidding you, watching it last night, the part that made me jump was when Jamie looked away and then he looked back and there's her face in the mirror. I literally went, ah! Like, I jumped how Claire should have jumped when Jamie woke her up.
Yeah. I mean, it's meant to be a jump scare. Like that's not not what it's supposed to be. That's what it's supposed to be. But you could definitely smell the room. You could see the dust, the way the lighting was hitting things. I mean, it looked like they would be coughing and just kind of choked up the whole time. In fact, the fact that they were in the house so much started to feel claustrophobic. And I mean, I just like the fact that they even slept by the hearth. I was like, how is this happening? Like, I wanted them to get out of there really, really badly.
It was dark. Like, I liked that.
Yeah.
It was, there was
light in the area.
And then
and amazing they were able to shoot in a dark,
small area.
Space.
I can't believe it. Unbelievable.
I know. But they slept on that floor.
Yeah.
Like,
I was disgusted because the stuff dripping from the ceiling it literally looked like doo-doo.
It was doo-doo.
Yeah,
I know it was, but like normally when something is bulbously like hanging from a ceiling, it's, water or whatever, and it's leaking down, it's water or blood or, just like dirty liquid. This just looked like dark, dank, bile-filled diarrhea. And I was just like, I am disgusted.
But that's what I think the whole point was, is you were supposed to feel disgusted. You were supposed to feel what they were feeling at that time. Yeah. And it was, his breathing, the sound effects and the sound editor, I think deserves every word, because that guy's I was like
something I've seen before. His like body laying there. There's been something in my recent watching past that looked exactly like that guy standing, because he looked like a corpse. And I wasn't expecting him to look that dead. And
you mean like when in this is it 7?
7, that's what it is. 7, that's exactly what it is. He looks like that guy.
Yeah.
Yes. And then he sits up or breathes.
Yeah.
He
breathes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and then they showed his feet. Oh God.
It was too much. It was a lot.
It was so
it didn't
much.
I saw some complaints and people saying it was like too gory. I didn't think it was too gory.
No. I think they needed to show it.
Yeah.
They had to show it to show what she had to do to, her revenge over her.
I would have even enjoyed like Jamie pulling him down the stairs and like getting poop all over him and stuff. Like I was down for like a whole thing. I was ready for a lot more.
No.
In the book when Jamie like gets down on his knee and like he immediately says that like all of his filth like soaked through his breeches or whatever, and I'm like, do it. Like, I was like,
and that's where I'm like, don't do it, please don't do that. And then the maggot scene where they were she's just down there picking maggots out.
Well, just gotta keep them. They're important. You gotta keep those maggots. I'm sure she found a little
They're
bottle to put them in.
I was like, I wonder if she went and looked for mold in the house. Yeah. Like, you know what? I need to bring some stuff back.
The girl that played Fanny Beardsley is super good.
She was amazing.
Bronwyn James. She's also in Harlots. If you guys haven't ever seen Harlots, it's a super good show, and she's in that. And she plays this sunniest little harlot ever on Harlots. And so I really enjoyed watching her just be just the worst and then turn into someone that you actually like feel for. She did a really great job with a great episode. I mean, she had plenty of pages to go through, but you really saw her just transformation and just like, basically was about 15 minutes of screen time. So
right.
Good job.
Oh, she was fantastic. She was great.
Yeah.
That's a cute ass baby too.
Oh my God, that baby. Oh my gosh.
Speaking
Very
of things
adorable.
that weren't born yesterday.
No.
Not at all.
Not at all. That baby.
But so cute.
So
And the baby toes.
Oh my god,
Something-
the noises and just the nose, the little tiny, baby nose. I was just like, oh. But out of that, I loved the scene where Jamie takes control, like where Jamie's like, I would do no less. What he say? I'd do no less for a dog.
Yeah.
So that whole,
Yes.
the fact that
And that's straight out of the book.
straight out of the book.
book.
And then he just, he blesses himself and, blink once, blink twice, and then stands. And the fact that just the power of seeing that image of, and I'm glad they didn't show, but everybody's, I'm glad they didn't show it where he, but everybody is complaining about the birds. How many birds flew in the air after he, like, the shooting, and all of a sudden you see these like massive amounts of like birds in the air. I was like,
I really wanted to say this for the very end because I find it so stupid. The passenger pigeon is in the book, and we were making fun of it in the book being like the extinct passenger pigeon or whatever, but it's just Claire seeing one passenger pigeon. And Matt Roberts made it sound like he discovered passenger pigeons, and he decided that a huge flock of unidentifiable birds would be identifiable to everybody who's watching it as an extinct North Carolinian bird, as a passenger pigeon, and that the sorceress of birds flying over everyone would be so spooky. It's not spooky. It just looks like really bad CGI, and nobody is identifying it as a passenger pigeon, you big dumbass.
And then all I could think about was that many birds, someone's going to get shit on. Like,
that's what I thought. I liked the birds. I just thought it was kind of, it made me feel about like the wildness of the place and how different it used to be. But all I could think was they'd be like covered in shit.
I was like waiting for like plopping, like it should be plopping onto them.
Would have been scared. They were resting. They were like, we're chilling out, and all of a sudden, gunshot, boom, and like.
There is a moment in the books too, right, where they hear something they think is thunder, and it's all of these birds. Right. Is that when she shoots the passenger pigeon, and that's what falls down? That's right. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it does happen in the book in a different place where there's like a big, again, a sorceress of birds that like fly up, and I think Bree shoots one, and Claire's like, it's a passenger pigeon, and we're all rolling our eyes like, okay, Claire,
like, no way she would have known.
Right. No. I've never even heard of a passenger pigeon, but like obviously your creator has a PhD in bird ecology or whatever, so that's why it's in there. But so we were rolling our eyes at the book, but in the show, I mean, Matt, you didn't come up with this.
No,
and he makes it sound like he did, and he thought it would be just so cool. And I mean, are we going to see all the extinct animals from North Carolina in this particular season, or is it just this one?
Well, they've already the opening sequence has a buffalo.
Yeah.
Hey, we have bison down here in Tennessee, my friend.
There we go.
But yeah, why so many birds?
I didn't need that. But
whatever. But I did love going back to Jamie when he says, I would do this for a dog. Claire doesn't do that thing that she does sometimes with the writers always do, where she's like arguing with him about the ethics of it or whatever. She's like, okay, yeah, I'll I love that. Like she's just out. You know what I mean?
Right. And and it's that sense of I have to. Okay, he's got to do what he's got to do. Let's not argue. This guy, and I think it also helps that the old man's a piece of shit. And
it helps that when she says, "Oh, you've been counting the days," and Fanny's like, "No, that was like 4 wives ago."
Yeah, he's killed all his wives.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And so for Jamie, when Jamie does that, and the guy blinks when he goes, "Do you want to pray for forgiveness?" And the guy blinks twice, and Jamie's like, "Okay."
Yeah. Jamie's like, "Yeah, fuck you, dude.
We're done.
You're out.
We're done.
Like, enjoy hell. If hell's real."
Something we forgot to discuss really quick. I'm so sorry. Because they are clearly making this the plot point also, other than what's happening on with that piece of paper. It's it's Roger and Bree, and the notion of them going back. They talked about it at the fireside. Claire said to Jamie, guess what? They should go back. And that's that, went after the whole what world should we live in?
Yeah.
And that's when she admits to Jamie that she desires.
That didn't belong in this episode.
No, it didn't. But it was still, it had to be it's what's going to be the thread.
Yeah, that's the big drama for this season.
Right. So they had to bring that up after what kind of,
honestly, like as the season progresses, the things that happen in this season don't lend themselves to them moving forward. So it's kind of a weird thing for it to be in this season.
Right.
Well, I think maybe because we know that Roger's getting ready to be strangled, and then this will push Claire to say, yes, go back, go back.
Right. Right. Somebody did put online, though, I don't know if it was to us or to the show in general, that as a historian, Roger should be loving this. Like,
Sure.
time
I mean,
period.
why not?
You know, so but once again, we have to create that tension, that drama, the melodrama, and there it is.
I think it is that they took our suggestions from the past couple of seasons, that the threads of these seasons since season 1 are missing. They haven't been doing a good through line all the way through, but don't hammer it and
Right.
make it make sense. I mean, the tension between Roger and Brianna in the Fiery Cross is about Stephen Bonnet and about the parentage of Jemmy. Now, it doesn't really make Roger come out as a good guy.
Right.
And maybe they didn't want to do that because they crucified his character in season 4. But that's the central tension. And whether or not they go back it doesn't pop up naturally in the tensions that happen this season. It's not a natural conclusion to the things that are happening to them. So it's an odd way. Yes, you needed a through line for them. Yes, you needed something that was even connected to Jamie and Claire with regard to how they felt about Roger and Brie, but this ain't it.
Right.
I was very thankful that Jamie was just like, well, that ain't gonna happen. I mean, because basically he was just like, let's put these thoughts to bed, Claire.
Yeah, he shut that shit down.
And then they wake up and his arm is on her shoulder, just like so.
Oh, it was so sweet. And after, I mean, even after, you know, he has that strength when he essentially kills the Beardsley. But then afterwards he comes out and he tells Claire, like, did my dad die? Like my dad had that.
Yeah.
And he starts to reminisce about his father. He goes, like the guilt he has, you know, thinking about his dad, and my sister had to take care of him. And that happened because of me, because he watched me and Claire, and, you know, and just that sense of that Sam is able to portray the strength and the vulnerability like that. So I really appreciated that moment. And
let me tell you what I loved about that scene.
Right.
And it's a big diversion from what they normally do, which is, Outlander's not wearing clothes, but I'm trying to keep him away. What they normally do is they tell the audience too much in moments like that. Like, there's a lot going on with Jamie saying, would have this happened to my dad? Like, did he suffer like that? Like, you have to remember that Black Brian died of apoplexy or a stroke or whatever, that stroke happened because of Jamie's being beaten at Fort William, that Jamie wasn't there when he died. All of this stuff, you have to like connect all these dots or know all of these things, be a super fan to like remember that that's going on. They're not writing the show necessarily for super fans. And so normally they would spoon feed us all of that information. They didn't this time. They just had Jamie in a vulnerable moment say, you know, is this what could have happened to my dad? And it worked. It worked because they let the audience fill in the blanks for ourselves. And they don't do that enough. And I was so grateful that in a vulnerable moment where Jamie and Claire are connecting and he's being vulnerable with her, and they're coming to what essentially is another one of their respect pacts. Goes back to their very first conversation where he says, you know, it has, you know, room for secrets, but not for lies. Like their conversation about the foundation of their relationship is their respect for one another. That was at the very beginning before he was able to tell her he loved her. We respect each other. So this is another respect pack. Like, I respect your decision on this enough to know that if this ever happens to you, I'll do what has to be done. So they just let the audience connect those dots. And I was so proud of them for doing that, because it's not something that they normally do. A lot of times they just spoon feed us. And I was very, very happy to see it the way it was.
And I loved the fact that you know, people were like, well, Claire should have reacted a little bit more. She did. It was a perfect moment. It was okay. You want me, because he even says to her, if that happens to me, I expect you to, what I did for him, Beardsley, I expect you to do for me as well. And and she just said, okay.
Yeah. We were
So-
getting a lot of
Yeah, I see it too.
We're getting a lot of comments
I
about
see it
we
too.
need someone on the panel who's willing to stand up for Claire. I agree, Marita. I don't disagree with you, and I don't, under normal circumstances, ever have anything really to say, especially about Katrina. But like even really about Claire, sometimes the way that she's written sucks, but that's not her fault. And I absolutely 100% like don't plan on talking shit about Katrina's performance on a regular basis or anything like that.
Right.
And I would love to, somebody, write us. You can contact me, Beth at thecooltable.com, and give me all of your Claire stuff, and I'll throw it in, and we'll talk about it.
Well, at the beginning of the episode, we were, complaining that we feel that the writers are setting up Claire to be to blame for whatever bad in her way. It's not so. I mean, I love Claire. I just want her to be written better.
Right. And please understand, we love differing opinions. We do not expect you to agree with us. This is what makes our conversation flow. It's what makes, we don't always agree with each other. And that's okay. And so
you're right, because I wanted them to bone in that first scene. So you two didn't.
Just be respectful of one another. I'm not talking, we love each other, but please allow people to have their opinions. They get to have their opinions too. And they can tell us that they don't agree with us, and we're completely fine with that.
Yeah. We have gotten a lot of hate over the years. And I don't love it, because I feel like, at the very least, we try to be thoughtful. We used to do this really drunk. I don't get drunk anymore, so it's really just me. But we used to do this drunk, and we would get drunker and drunker and drunker. So it used to be real mean. And I always try to temper what I have to say about everybody except the head writers with a good amount of grace to what, even when we don't like Sophie's performance or whatever, like a lot of grace to how hard it must be to come in at that age and not be, as experienced as other people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So I love everybody that watches this show.
Absolutely.
We've made really great relationships.
Right.
Marita just said Claire's a character that made me love the books.
Absolutely.
That's the wrong one. And she's so wonderful. She absolutely is. I absolutely love Claire. I just thought in the past couple of episodes, there've been moments where I haven't been seeing Claire. I've been seeing like some weird amalgamation of what Katrina might think Claire's supposed to be.
When Katrina gets it right, she hits it out of the park. There's a reason why she always gets nominated. So, but
no one told me we weren't supposed to be getting drunk.
Well, I just had a whole glass of Chardonnay.
Y'all can still get drunk. I am very aware that when I get that drunk, I get a little bit too mean, and I'm just trying not to be so mean. I do want to say this. I just watched Pride and Prejudice, the 2005 one, today with my husband while we were eating dinner. Yeah. And I was struck by, I love that movie. I love that source material, and I love other adaptations of that as well. But there are lines in that movie that are so bad and cheesy. There's deliveries that are bad. I super hate that moment where Donald Sutherland puts his hand in front of his mouth and he just looks so dumb, and like
I'm getting married or whatever.
Yes. And there's a moment where Lizzie comes out of the closet and she was like, "He loves you, Jane. Do not give up. Do not give up." You think that Lizzie Bennett says, "Do not give up," like ever? No, that didn't happen. That was the most worst line in the whole world. And like, there's just a lot of things in that movie that crack me up, because I love it. I love it so, so much. And my point is that there are times when Outlander just doesn't get things right. It does not mean we absolutely do not love it. And it's funny because Pride and Prejudice is so well beloved, and yet there's still some dumb shit in that movie. Like just occasionally, like there's pig balls in that movie for no reason. Mrs. Bennett is like looking at the pig balls with like lust at the beginning of that. It's just weird.
You know what? And there are going to be people who love that movie for every single minute, and that's fine. And if you love Outlander for every single minute, every single scene, every single act,
you are high as a kite, motherfucker.
You need to No, that is your opinion. And
You
we
are such
invite
a
you.
school counselor.
And
Like,
we invite you to come aboard and to sit at the table. So
Julie is a school counselor and she wants everybody to be happy. And I am an Enneagram 8. And I'm like, listen here, bitches, you don't like it? Like, you just can leave. But I really don't feel that way. I really want you to.
you really don't
I'm a
feel
people
that way.
pleaser 3, so I will only say this to the internet. I would never say any of this to anybody's face.
Very true. Even though the internet is forever. But anyway, so all my point is, Dawn just asked who wrote this episode. Luke Schulhaus wrote this episode. And
He's a great schoolhouse.
he has not had some of the best episodes. So that
Right.
he got a good one this time. It's a great episode. It really super was. Anna just said, why do you think the writing wasn't on point? I do think the writing was on point. I think that this episode, the writing worked well. The couple of things that
really well.
really the only complaints I have about this episode is the weird look between Jamie and Bree, which wasn't explained and doesn't make sense. I don't super love a couple of places of the pacing, like when the thieves get pulled in and the boys get pulled in. I thought that was kind of a little weird. And I didn't like some of the delivery of Katrina's lines. And that's not I didn't like.
That's not writers. That could just be director.
Yeah.
Right there. So
and the birds. I thought the birds were dumb. But like really the birds don't bother me like as an ending to the episode. Right. I think they're fine. I didn't like Matt's talking about the birds like he came up with something really great. That other than that, I don't care.
Right.
So anyway, I thought it was a great episode. I'm really looking forward to next week. I don't think it's going to be as good. I think that our expectations are going to have to be lowered for next week. There's a lot going on in Brownsville, and but we're going to get some good moments with Jamie and Claire talking about that baby, and I'm hoping that sticks really close to the books as well. I'm really hoping Brownsville sticks close to the books. I thought that section of the Fiery Cross is interesting and fun, and there's the little, there's going to be like a little escape with like this girl who loves a boy. And I don't know. I'm into it. I hope
the girl who loves a boy who's already married to another woman.
Yeah, that's true. But still, he loves her.
There we go.
I'm only into cheating when I think it's cute. So, all right. But I really, really appreciate you guys joining us this week. I know some of that was hard to hear for some of you guys. And we'll think about getting us a Claire apologist, even though we are not Claire knockers by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want to see Claire's knockers because I'm a prude apparently, and I don't like sex scenes. But speaking of Claire's knockers, if you for some reason have gotten in an hour and 12 minutes into Hangoutlander, which you haven't if you're this kind of person, but there are people out there that are like complaining that Katrina is in Paris Fashion Week with her boobs hanging out. Let me just say something. Boobs are meant to be seen. That's the point. They are beautiful. And they are fun and they are bouncy. And if you are slut shaming Katrina Mary Balfe for her boobalicious looking good in Paris and some Valentino, you need to get off the internet. That is ridiculous. We all have them ish. Some of us don't. It's fine.
We're all born with nipples.
Some of us have more that we're willing to share with others.
Some of us just put Warren across the front of them and, you can see this. So I'm just saying, like, there are people out there saying a lot worse things. But they need to not say them because they're ridiculous. And I thought she looked fantastic. I wish I was in Paris Fashion Week, but I'm not. All right, guys.
All right.
That's it for 503. Thank you for joining us. Come back next Monday and we will talk even more. In the meantime, visit us at thecooltable.com. All right. Love you guys.
Bye.
Goodbye.